Casting my mind back to the days of yesteryear, it was when I was at university that I first came across the works of the celebrated surrealist artist Salvador Dalí. I had been looking for some free posters with which to decorate the bare walls of my accommodation, and happened to be passing the office of French Railways on a day out in London. I had been walking into various national tourist offices, asking them for some of their posters, and was delighted when SNCF gave me a set of 6 by the then not-so-well-known Dalí. My then-girlfriend was very much into modern art and drooled over the posters, and I guess I will always kick myself for handing them over to her in a fit of generosity. Nowadays, I think that virgin set would be worth a mini fortune. So what's that got to do with Beijing, I hear you asking? Well, last weekend I was taken out to lunch by some amazing people who told me we'd be going to a restaurant in FangCaoDi. Where, said I? Parkview Green, you must know it. But in my ignorance I didn't, until we arrived and I recognized a building I had walked past many times, normally at night time, just 10 minutes away from where I live. I'd often wondered what packs of howling wolves were doing posing outside on the pavement, but after a while nothing really surprises you in this amazing city. But once we were through the revolving door, with a Miss Piggy with attitude posing seductively in the central display part, and having then passed a contraption that defied logic — was it a machine, a sculpture, a work of art? What on earth was it? Not to mention a farting bull, which has been described, perhaps a little unfairly, as being possibly the ugliest statue ever unveiled. Well, I was already hooked and determined to revisit later in the week. Parkview Green, FangCaoDi, is one of China's largest sustainable architecture projects. It's a hotel, shopping and commercial hub, which was the first structure in Beijing planned for sustainability. It was designed with energy efficiency as its number one priority. It's also the first of Beijing's buildings to make use of a microclimate as a means of minimizing energy consumption. The building encases 2 9-story and 2 18-story towers in a transparent envelope, and the resulting buffer zone is a contained environment within which the climate is relatively uniform. The structure has no air conditioning. Instead, the whole interior space acts as a solar chimney, with the 89-metre highest point of the pyramidal form drawing warm air up and out of the building. The office and retail areas are ventilated through underground ducts, and in the summer, ventilation louvers installed at the top of the envelope allow the warmest air to escape, creating an upward flow. As it escapes, cooler air is drawn up from the bottom of the building, creating natural ventilation. Clever stuff. Yes, but what about Dalí, I hear you pressing me? Hold on, I'm getting there. According to one of Parkview's websites, Parkview has supported Chinese art for the past 50 years and Chinese contemporary artists for over 20 years. Its art collection includes the largest Dalí collection outside of Spain, numerous artworks by Western masters, an invaluable collection of imperial Chinese stone Buddhist carvings, and a substantial collection of contemporary Chinese art amounting to over 10,000 works. I'm already hooked. The next day, I make my way back to PVG, and before I even head inside, I first do a tour of the outside. How come I've never noticed all the artwork surrounding the building before? Well, I guess bronzework doesn't show up very well at night time, but here are a plethora of Dalí sculptures, one after the other, facing the street. Reina Caracol from 1974. Reloj Blando, also from 1974, featuring one of Dalí's signature melting clocks. There's even a rear entrance archway, which certainly looks like it could have been a Dalí piece, but there's no sign that I can see to confirm this. Further round the building, there's what looks like an aircraft carrier suspended next to the pavement, though again, there are no signs to tell us what it is or who it's by. And back around at the front once more, there are a couple of marching soldiers, which I think are by a famous Chinese artist, Qin Fengling. Now, I hate to point this out, dear managers of PVG, but your collection of Dalí, though undoubtedly large, and I counted 14 bronze sculptures, but there could well have been more for all I know, is certainly not the largest collection outside Spain. With the exception of the Dalí Theatre Museum created by Dalí himself in his hometown of Figueres, Catalonia, the Dalí Museum in St. Petersburg, Florida, put together by Reynolds and Eleanor Morse, has the world's largest collection of Dalí's works that includes 96 oil paintings, over 100 watercolours and drawings, 1,300 graphics, photographs, sculptures and objets d'art, and an extensive archival library. I've been there, and it's a fabulous collection. Definitely a must-visit museum if ever you find yourself in Florida. But let's not be ungenerous. For PVG is indeed an amazing place. I mean, how many shopping malls have you ever spent nearly 2 hours in without going into a single shop? Join me now on the inside. There's no denying that the shops in the main cater for people with money, and plenty of it. As the old expression goes, if you have to ask the price of the items on display, you're probably unlikely to be able to afford them. But you can happily forget the shops, though the restaurants are well worth a visit. Every nook and cranny of this space is taken up with modern art, not just the likes of Dalí, but very many international modernists, and plenty of up-and-coming Chinese artists too. If, like me, you've never heard of most of these, it really doesn't matter. That well-worn phrase, something to please everyone, surely comes to mind. For instance, on the second floor, you'll come across works by Xia Hang, such as a roadbuster. Xia Hang was born in 1978 in Liaoning province in China's far north, and graduated in 2002 from the Lushun Academy of Fine Arts. Or how about Japanese artist Aya Takano, born in 1976 in Saitama? She specializes in Japanese comic and sci-fi characters. Here there's her white dog, which is made of wood, styrofoam, cotton and cloth. There are also regular temporary exhibitions showing, such as one which has some of its exhibits on display in the 798 Art District, as well as here in a gallery on the second floor of PVG. It's not a big gallery, but remember, we're inside a shopping mall. There's certainly enough to keep you occupied for a good 15 minutes or so. At the front you can see a doggy by Xiongko Li. He's quite cute in a static sort of way. Or how about Wei Kun's elephant? I'm not sure I'd want to part with 80,000 RMB for it, but I guess it's pretty clever. Although the majority of the artworks are sculptures, there are a number of paintings to be seen, not least in private art shops that have sprung up inside the mall. There you are exhorted not to take photographs. Why, the very idea never crossed my mind. Sometimes it's difficult to judge whether something is a piece of art or is advertising one of the shops, but maybe it doesn't actually matter. A coffee shop with stacked coffee cups outside, and the Deli-France that an Eiffel Tower belongs to, are somehow enhanced by these simple artistic decorations. Everything just seems to fit in together, and the essence of an art centre is enhanced by these simple advertising sculptures. A blow-up monkey doll and a lotus flower that opens and closes periodically are hard to miss, while a display of cows hanging from the rafters might enhance the superiority that vegetarians may well feel about themselves. I have to admit that my favourite piece in the entire shopping mall, called Beetle Sphere, is by an Indonesian artist called Iswan Nur. The accompanying blurb tells us that this 180cm sphere is made from aluminium, polyester, paint and real parts from a VW Beetle of 1953 vintage. Iswan Nur, it turns out, specializes in mammoth sculptures of morphed cars, and this Beetle is one of a series of 5 spherical and cubed vehicles by the Jakarta-based sculptor. Way back in 2011, the artist created a VW made into a perfectly angular cube. The piece was voted favourite artwork at the Indonesian Art and Motoring Exhibition, and one of his cars on display at an exhibition in Hong Kong sold for $88,000 shortly after the show opened. When you look at the morphed shape of the sculpture, it's pretty hard to believe this was ever a roadworthy car. The amount of metalwork that he must have employed is amazing. Even small elements like the taillights don't protrude from the shape of the sphere. For me, this has to be the epitome of art.